Hi, I'm Joshua.
Hi, I'm Jeremy.
Welcome to the Brothers Judah Show.
Welcome.
So, today we are talking about one of the seven deadly sins, sloth, right?
Sloth is the one today.
Okay. And we actually just recorded another episode before this, and Jeremy asked me, do you want to record another episode? And I was like, do I really feel like it? And I'm like, oh, we should do sloth. So,
Perfect.
talk about that, yeah.
Perfect. So do you want to start it off or do you want me to?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I know I struggle with procrastination. I know I struggle with.
So I don't know if procrastination is necessarily always sloth because procrastination can be, I don't feel like doing it. But then I know you're a perfectionist, and I know I'm kind of a perfectionist too. So if sometimes I'm procrastinating because I'm a perfectionist and I'm actually working. I'm working on other stuff, but I just don't want to start something because I'm not sure how I'm going to do it.
So why don't we define what is sloth aside from a slow-moving animal that hangs on its tail or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's when you're being lazy, which I guess you have to define that, but it's basically you don't feel like doing anything because it's easier to relax. It's easier to just lay and watch TV, or it's easier. But it's not like let's say it's not a needed break. It's beyond a needed break. So I know you've said many times in the past, sharpening your sword. It's not you're taking the necessary time to refuel, recharge, rest, so then you can be more productive after. You're beyond that. You've already rested, and now when you're actually laying there and doing nothing, it's actually draining you. Like there are some days where I've marathoned a show, and I feel more drained than I did before. So it's...
Well, I think we should probably separate out health from this, so we don't end up going back into another health discussion, because I think a lot of people are struggling with fatigue in our society nowadays, and I think
It's true.
It's a very real health condition, health symptom, which has very real causes.
Yeah.
So I think we should separate that out. So if someone's not, like I've struggled with chronic fatigue in my life from health-related issues, and I think that's separate. So let's talk about...
I wouldn't consider that sloth.
Let's talk about if you're feeling good. You're not tired, you're feeling good.
Okay.
Then, what would sloth be?
So I guess it's when if you're feeling good and there's no health-related reasons why you shouldn't be doing something. I guess it's if you know the best path forward is to be productive in some way, and you choose another path. But
so that goes back to seeking pleasure and not seeking to serve God's will, which is basically what a lot of these sins goes back to.
Most of all of these sins we probably could could pinpoint to the same causes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's if I know it's best, actually. I have actually a good example. Did I tell you about the heater? I didn't use this in a previous episode.
think
Good,
so.
then I'll tell it. So we have a mule at our house, and it has a big 100-gallon tub
And just
for water.
For people who don't know, a mule is half donkey, half horse, right?
Half donkey, half horse.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's so cool. I don't know why.
Yeah. So we have a 100-gallon big metal tub that we fill with water, and in the winter, it's a little more of a pain because it can freeze, so we have to keep it warm. So I have an aquarium heater that I have there with an extension cord run to it to keep it warm. So, and what happens is, I don't know if you guys know, but aquarium heaters, they have to be submerged in water when they're on. You can't just have them out in the air open. On. So what happens is, let's say this is the water level, and the aquarium heater, let's say the pen is the aquarium heater laying on the ground. Well, the water level goes down, and then I fill it back up. And the water level goes down, and I fill it back up. Now, in the summer, it's really easy to fill it back up because I just leave my hoses out, and I just go over there, turn it on, and sometimes I forget and it overflows, but that's another story. But in the winter, it's a pain because I can't leave the hoses out because it freezes, and then you have a big problem. So I have to wrap up, bring in the hoses, and I have two 50-foot hoses and an additional 15 at the end. So there's 3 hoses, 115 feet of hoses. Every time I have to fill it, I got to bring the hoses out, then roll them back up and bring them in and drain them so there's no water. It's a pain. So the water level's going down, and there was a point in time about here where I thought to myself as I walked by, oh, I should fill that. I didn't feel like it. Then it got down the next day. Oh, I should fill that. I didn't feel like it. I probably went inside, laid down, watched a TV show. I didn't feel like it. And the next thing I knew, I walked out there and the water level, let's say my arm is the heater, the water level was right halfway. So the top of the heater was in the air, cold air, and the bottom was in the water. So what happened is the air blowing over it, it cracked the plastic of the heater, exposing the insides and broke the heater. So now the heater broke. So what happened is that water, which doesn't look like a lot of water, but when it's a big tub and it's a solid brick of frozen, so now what?
So now the
heater's broken, frozen in the ice. So now I have to every day fill up 5-gallon pails and carry out 5-gallon pails and dump it in to fill her water, but it freezes. So until I bought a new heater, which was a few days at least, I had to now carry out 5-gallon pails and dump them in. And I had to do that both morning and night because, and as I was dumping them in, they were, she'd drink it, but then it would freeze, and then drink it and it would freeze. So it was going up and up of ice, just ice, 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 ice. And it turned into a huge pain in the butt, all because I was just a little lazy and what I consider was sloth. I didn't feel like doing it.
Yeah. It reminds me of my experience right before my conversion to Christianity. It's like we have a personal reckoning coming, and it's like the little things that we kind of, the little sins the things we did wrong, or the things that we didn't handle properly start to catch up to us, and then you're like carrying buckets out all day, like trying to survive, and you could see like the walls closing in. Like I had this personal reckoning in my life where like things started to catch up with me, and I was like, I only have like a week left of life here, and I'm racing to get to, like, you know what I mean? And it's fascinating, but I think we have to get to a point of kind of in our life of diligence where we're meeting all of our responsibilities regularly.
Yeah.
Like we have to clean up our life enough where, for me, I try to do as much as I can every day. And diligence, I think, is like not leaving till tomorrow what you can do today type of thing. I try to do everything I can every day. And then Sunday, I try to take a day of rest for the Sabbath.
That's what it says in the Bible.
Yeah. So I try to stick to that. But that does include resting in the evenings when I feel like I've gotten to the end of my, it's like, that's it. That's all I can do today. Yeah. Then I rest. So, I think the only way to combat that is to just every day do do everything that we can to be the best we can. And if we're not in a cycle like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that mule water instance with the heater, along with many other examples like that, finally it just drilled it into my head so much where majority of the time now, whenever there's something I have to do, I'm like, I know the pain of not doing this is worse than me just doing it. So it's like, I just do it now. It's like I have to bring in firewood, and I don't feel like going out in the cold and bringing in firewood, but I know in the morning when I wake up and it's even colder than it is now, I'm not going to want to go out and bring in firewood. So I just might as well do it now. And it's almost like It
reminds me every morning when I'm in the shower, because I keep my trailer pretty cold to try to save on propane. Yeah. So in the morning when I get in the shower, I'm cold, and the warm shower feels so nice. I'm like, I just want to stay in there forever. And I get to this point where I'm like, if I get out now, if I stay longer, it's going to be harder to get out, and I'm just going to stay longer and longer until the pain becomes unbearable. So I'm like at this point, and I'm like, shut off the water. And like some days I can't do it, and I just stay until it becomes too painful, and because I know I have to get to work or whatever, and then the pain forces me to do it. And some days, like when I'm feeling good, I'm like, I literally say hurrah, and I just shut it.
Yeah.
Like as if I was in the Marines or something.
I'm laughing so hard because I have
Yeah.
a similar experience when I take a bath, a relaxing bath to just like relax. So
Yeah.
I fill up the bathtub, I get in, it's all nice and warm, and then as I'm sitting in there, the temperature starts dropping, and there's a point in time where you start getting cold. But and if I don't get out before it gets cold, then it's even worse because my body temperature start getting cold in the bath, and then when I get out into the cold air, it's even worse. So like, and if I make the wrong decision, then I'm in the bathtub, I'm like, oh, and then I'm cold in the bathtub, but it's colder out. I'm like, I don't want to get out because it's cold, but I'm getting colder every second.
Yeah. Life is like that, though.
It is.
It's like if we don't do what we're supposed to do now, it's more painful later.
Yeah. So I mean, that was very interesting to talk about, but relating it back to sloth, then.
But I think that's the underlying cause of sloth. I think it's either health related, it's just seeking pleasure,
Yeah. Yeah.
or it's some type of like natural consequences of living that if we don't do it now, it's gonna be more painful later. Like I don't know. I don't think people are inherently. I don't think. Like if you take like the average person who's like a good person, kind of wants to be a good person, just living their life. I don't know. I don't think there's like an inherent. Like what would be the drive to be slothful other than just seeking pleasure? I don't know.
It probably is just seeking pleasure. It's probably related back to the other sins,
Yeah.
where just making the wrong decision and choosing the pleasurable
Yeah.
thing in the moment over what's best for the world.
Yeah.
And that is just coming out in the sloth aspect rather than in something else, and the pleasure of food or the pleasure of...
My old pastor had a little thing on his desk, like a wooden block that said, "Do what is right, not what is easy." I think that's what it comes down to.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I guess I pray, one, that I know what is right, because a lot of times people think what's right is wrong. You know, they're confused. And I pray, two, that when I know it's right, I pray I then take action to do it.
Yep.
So those two things.
Yep.
And I think that comes being able to do that through like wisdom and, experience and doing things such as, reading the Bible, having conversations like these, gaining wisdom throughout your life, but then also
It's also the daily practice.
Well, yeah, I was
Because-
trying to put that to words.
yeah.
The daily practice of almost like developing a muscle.
Yeah.
If you're not using it, your muscle gets weak. So it's the daily practice that develops that muscle in your body and
And
your
it's
mind.
hard because while we're in this life, we never actually get to a point where we don't have to do that. Like, I'm like, and that's hard for me. I don't know if it is for everyone, but it's hard for me, like, that you never arrive. Like, until we get to heaven.
It's the journey.
I know, but like, it's that you have to be continually in that process of daily practice of growing, because there's no way out. Other than dying, there's no way out. Like you just got to do it, and you never like. There's not going to be another day where I'm not going to be uncomfortable getting out of the shower. Like it's like it's almost like the discomfort is part of daily living here in physical bodies, and
Yeah, though you can solve specific problems, but the growth just goes on to other things. So there are things that I used to struggle with that I'm no longer struggling with. So using that shower as an example, there are ways around it, heating your bathroom high. I mean, like what I do now is I light the wood stove and I get that going and warm up the house and then take a shower. So then by the time I'm out of the shower, the blower is kicked on the wood stove and it's blowing hot air and I get out of the shower. So there are ways where we can adjust ourselves, but now the struggle from that, it's moved on to different struggles. So
once you get solve those problems, if you just stayed there, you'd start to fall into sloth and seeking pleasure again.
yes.
So once you solve some problems, that just means now you just got bigger responsibilities and bigger areas of growth to keep working on.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I guess I don't know. I heard Sir Patrick Stewart, the actor.
Of course.
In one of his show, I think it was in a show. It wasn't him. It was his character as Captain Picard. But he said he didn't want the game to end. And when I was really miserable,
Yeah.
I I didn't get that, and I was a little upset by that. I was like, man, his life's so great that it's a fun game that he doesn't want to end. I'm like, my life's miserable. Like, I just want this to end.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I was kind of jealous of him. I was like, man, I wish I felt like that. But I think there is a place you get to eventually where it's like, it's not a game, but it's like there's a fulfillment that comes through the daily practice of following God and practicing these principles, and it does get better. So I think like it's less hard for me now than it was a few years ago when I was really struggling. So
well, we've said it in a past episode. The more well behaved you are, the better life becomes.
Yeah.
And one other thing I want to mention. So back when I was saying how you can solve the problem of stepping out of the shower, but then it's, you then grow in other areas.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, as I was starting to really get involved with going to church and reading the Bible and really focusing on stopping sin and things, I noticed that as I would solve one sin, I would then be more attuned and more attentive and be able to notice more finer sins. So it's almost like if there's someone who's a murderer, a thief, as all the most miserable person you can think of, committing all these horrible sins. If he solves, he no longer murders, he no longer steals, he no longer is this. Well, now it's almost like they've graduated up, and now they can see other sins,
like a refinement.
Yeah. So now I'm noticing sins that I didn't even notice I was doing 5 years ago. Now I see them, oh, wow, I'm sinning in that way. When 5 years ago, I was oblivious to that sin.
Yeah.
So it's almost like as I'm getting better at, like graphic design, or like when I was younger, I didn't even notice coloring of lights, like whether the light was a little bluer or a little more yellow. And now as I've matured and been working with it, I notice now when I'm outside and I look, I can see, oh, the kitchen light is more blue tint and the living room light is more of a yellow tint.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
So
there was also something you said to me once about, something about God having to trust us with the small things in order to trust us with the big things. Yeah. At the time, I was very mad at you because I was really struggling. And
I'm sorry.
It was like, oh, great, thanks. But it's true. I mean, we have to solve the little things, or we have to have responsibility with smaller things to be given greater responsibilities and blessings as well. So it's kind of...
Well, I mean, on that, I don't know if this is when I told you, but I noticed when I was living with my wife in the previous town we used to live, I wanted more land. And then it hit me one day, we had a little tenth of an acre, a little tiny house on a tenth of an acre with a small backyard. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not even taking care of the tenth of an acre I have. Why would God give me more? So then I started tending to the backyard. I planted a garden, I started cleaning it up, I put in a retaining wall, and it felt like the next day, but it was probably 2 months after. Suddenly, the land that I'd been searching for a good two and a half plus years suddenly became available, and it felt like it was just like handed to me. It was a price I could afford. Yeah. And it almost felt like I had shown that I am responsible for this. Yeah. So now I graduated to the next level.
Yeah.
So it's...
So with that, I mean, it sounds like greater fulfillment would actually come, like sloth would actually lead to less fulfillment.
It does.
So
all sin leads to less
traps.
Fulfillment.
They're traps.
It does. So, all right. Final thoughts?
All right. No, that's it.
We're good.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.